Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million strategy roundtable for entrepreneurs. 1Mby1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator for technology startups in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. In support of that mission, we do a lot of work. One of them is through this free roundtables. And these have been going on since the fall of 2008. We started with one experiment and that experiment blossomed into the full-fledged 1M1M program in 2010. And, a lot of things have been added to that. So that's the context of how we started with this mode of mentoring. The event is being recorded, and every single recording of our sessions are available on our YouTube channel, 1M1M Roundtables. On Twitter, we're at 1M1M, and that's Romana. And our hashtag for today is 1M1M. You can dial in by phone, or you can just use your computer audio. Either way is fine. You're welcome to do either. Just to set expectations for those who are pitching today or those who will be pitching in upcoming sessions, we are completely on your side. This is a safe working session. There is no agenda. This is not Shark Tank. We're not trying to be snarky gratuitously to entertain people. That's not how 1M1M works. It's a serious working session where we discuss strategy and how you can remove your roadblocks. If you disagree with me, that's okay. It's not a problem. You remember, not all businesses can raise money, and raising money doesn't guarantee success. That's the only thing I would suggest that you please make a note of, and remember that there is this whole fundability question. Do not waste a lot of time chasing money, funding, when your business may or may not fit the criteria of funding. Not all businesses can go from $0 to $100 million in 5 to 7 years, which is the criteria for venture funding. So there are other kinds of funding. Bootstrapped entrepreneurs also use different kinds of inventory financing in the case of, products and e-commerce, perhaps. There is all kinds of transaction financing. In SaaS also, there's kinds of financing available, but these are not the same as venture financing. So funding is a complex topic, and you're going to need to take that into account as you design your strategy for the company. So we are going to start with Avi today. I believe there are some issues with the others. One of them is there are 3 pitches originally that were booked for this session. One of them is sick, and the other is probably having some difficulty joining, but maybe he will sort out his problems and be able to pitch. But let's get started with Avi, and we'll get to the rest in a bit. So Avi, please unmute your line and tell us what you're working on.
Good morning, Samana. Good morning, everybody. So just wanted to background myself. Grew up in India in a pretty relatively good background, but always been concerned about the problem that I saw in India, the poverty and other issues. So I've been very passionate about trying to find solutions to problems. That has been my passion. And about 35 years back, a long time back, I did start a consulting company in New Delhi called the Idea Machine, based on some of the software I had collaborated with a professor in Virginia Tech. So that I did for a long time, and that involved going into multiple directions, problem solving, even the IDC algorithm for cause and effect analysis, which has obviously spanned machine learning, the whole industry. So I was involved with that initially, then also into manufacturing optimization using dynamic simulation and work study in other areas. So that was there. Then I moved to the US, and I've been here for the last 25 years. in mostly, really all the time in SAP. That some people call it that way. So I picked up my old work, and what I've done now is to develop a methodology and a tool set for solving complex problems. And this presentation is about that. So it is basically from service to product kind of a thing. Yeah. So this is the value proposition that we have. We are focusing only on complex problems. There are other types of problems which are between simple problems, complicated problems, and chaotic problems, which you don't deal with that. Any questions?
Well, I assume you will, target customer and all of that. So keep going with your presentation. I will give you feedback after and ask questions
Okay.
as we go along.
Right. So this is basically looking at solving problems, and this is enabling anybody really, organizations obviously, to understand and solve their problems. So the whole process and methodology of trying to understand problems and then come up with more creative or better solutions that are being currently implemented. It has the pain point, as I mentioned out, that if you go to Google about problem solving, you come with multiple, iterations of where people have done it. Some have 3 steps, some have 4 steps. I have done what I call is a 6-step process. The pillars of the 6-step process, and which is really what limits itself to a wider application, that the client should be prepared to have this self-directed team, so they can bring the whole team together in the whole process solving process. So you are trying to solve the problem, not using outside consultants, but empowering your own people through the whole process and the tool set to understand your problems, because the domain knowledge that you have internally about the issue, and then go about doing that. Second part is basically called framework. So you could think of, we always think in terms of framework. We human beings trying to get a structure or a model regarding the various issues. So we have built a library, accessed available libraries, and built a library of about 1,000 frameworks that can be used for a very wide range of issues to be able to get that. And those are the frameworks that get started. So to start the journey.
Avi, what is your assumption? Is this like a database where people are going in and searching thing, or do you have actually a service that people, submit problems, come to you with problems, and your team applies these frameworks to solve them?
Right. So we work together on an online basis, and we access those frameworks as and when required at a particular point in time. So we are working with the client as a consultant, and it is not the typical consulting that we come and debrief the client, understand their problem, go back and find a solution. We work continuously with the client using the framework to get started and go through the whole journey, the 6-step process together. And the third step of it, so one is team, second is the framework we talked about. Second is that whatever you enter, so the data is, text is, because we're not dealing with data, we're dealing with text. When you enter the text, we have this coding done, we get instant visualization of those data that has the text that has been entered. And these are some of the examples of some of the visualizations. The same data, the text, right, all this together, can be viewed in multiple ways. So some is 2x2 matrix, some is 4x, fishbone diagram, mind map, and other things that they build. So this coding allows us to build those instant visualizations. So the user is able to get a feedback instantly of how they're thinking, and which provides a stimuli to think in different direction and expand understanding and solutions that they do. Because that is how creativity typically works. The more stimuli you provide, the more better you get at the next round iteration. And this is what the instant visualization does, that you keep expanding on the initial issues, and then you go forward from there. Any questions? Yeah. So this is the 6-step process that we have: problem analysis, cause and effect analysis, idea generation, decision analysis, unintended analysis, which I think I have a separate site, unintended.org, which tries to anticipate the law of unintended consequences, because a lot of people come with a lot of good intentions, have solutions, policy decisions are made at various levels, but they don't look at what could be go wrong with those decisions. So there's a whole exercise that we try to do as part of this six-step process to look at what could be going wrong and what could be the mitigation that we could do to improve the solutions, and we can separately. And then obviously the outcome analysis, we take input and actions that need to get to better outcome. So as I see, the custom acquisition is from a service to a product. So initially one is trying to look to work with individual companies, like the clients, to fine tune the system in the process. I have done the best I could from my understanding of the situation, but yes, there could be ways to definitely improve the situation through any tool. And then once the tool is accepted by a set of client customers have worked on it, then want to turn it into a SaaS product. It is currently a SaaS product, but it's not open SaaS product, so it's currently all SaaS product.
So do you have any customer at the moment?
I don't have a customer, but we have a use case on the site that I can, based on credentials, then one can have a look at the whole six-step process and how one goes about it.
I'm actually more interested in figuring out what is the strategy for getting to validation. And it doesn't have to be your SaaS product. I'm just wondering if let's say you start engaging with a customer or you have to engage with a number of customers, can you, by applying your framework and methodology to their problems, can you actually create value such that they're willing to pay you? We'll come to SaaS and productization later, but just in a services mode, can you deliver value? Can you get paid for it? That's my question.
Absolutely. That's the whole approach, right? Yeah. So the whole approach is that they will be able to do better than what they're currently doing, starting with even understanding the problem. So before we solve a problem, you have to understand the real problem. And for example, the first step is problem analysis. And one of the first steps in problem analysis that I have is assumption analysis. What are the assumptions underlying your understanding of the world around you, about yourself and the world around you?
So I think your questions, I'm looking at your questions, and they're not the right questions.
Okay.
At this stage, those are not the right questions. I don't know what features would be helpful, and I don't care, because I'm not the person who should be telling you those features. Your customers should be telling you those features. I'm not your customer. The important question is perhaps question number 3, and maybe question number 1, which is, how do you, right now you have to do services. You don't have a product, you're not ready for a product. And I don't think, I think your understanding of what is needed in this product is still limited, because no customer has really worked with you on this. So at the moment, I want to know how you are going to get a bunch of customers on a pure services mode, and how much do you think you can charge them? So who is the customer? Who is the ideal customer?
Yeah, so that's a great point, and that is the search space for actual customers. One way that I'm looking at that companies now have dedication, innovation officers of a team that is going to look at try to find innovations in this workspace, right? And
is innovation your domain? Your domain is problem solving. What is the kind of problem? In what vertical do you want to go after? Right? Problems. There are horizontal problems, and then there are vertical problems. There are vertical domain-specific problems in different industry sectors and so forth. So, is there a particular industry sector where you have contacts, where you have, how can you question about what is the best approach to getting quick validation? This is not quick validation. What you need to do is get people to basically give you work so that you can prove, your concept. So where do you have contacts? How do you want to position this? Problem solving is a very generic positioning. You're going to need to get more specific, narrower with it.
Right. So you're right about that. So basically, I think initially, it is about complex problems.
Yeah.
It is not about simple problems or even complicated problems. Like manufacturing a car is a complicated problem. Okay. I'm not going into manufacturing a car, complicated problem. They are complex problems with the intersections, knowing even the causes of the problem. Because if you look at deep,
I get it. So you have an idea of what is the complex problem. So you need to figure out where those complex problems are, and you need to position your customer acquisition strategy on such problems. So give me an example of, if you had to pick, what would be your ideal problem, in what sector, what is that problem? And then I can help you think through how to approach finding customers in that domain.
yeah, I'll give you an example. This is a use case we have in the study that I've done, not with the customer, but thinking through the whole thing. The company XYZ in Europe has making garments, and they feel a lot of competition. They see economy slowing down. They see interest rates going down. So they want to now optimize their operations. So this is basically labor optimization. And so this is the whole process that I take them through in the 6-step process, that how would they first of all understand what are the stakeholders, for example, who are the stakeholders who will be interested as part of the solution or part of the problem? What are the goals of each of the stakeholders? What are the company's, like I said, assumptions, first of all? Then once they have done the whole problem analysis stage, you go for cause and effect analysis. What is causing the problem to the way it is? Because a lot of time people go and look at the problem and try and find ideas or solutions to that problem.
Okay, so let's go back to a garment house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You said it's a European garment house who has these problems. Don't all garment houses have this problem?
This is an example. This is try to make it specific. This all any company, for example, who wants to optimize their operations, right? A company, everybody feels competition. Everybody feels the interest rates are going down. Everybody in Europe and USA feels that the Asian competitors are getting to them, very close to them. How do they optimize their operations?
Who is the most likely buyer of your solution? Is it the CEO? Is it the CFO? Is it the COO? Who is the most likely buyer? It sounds like it has to be a high-level buyer.
Sorry?
It sounds like it has to be a high-level buyer.
Exactly. Somebody who has the power to understand, who is already using some kind of a solution, or who's able to understand that this framework can help them solve internally the problem without reaching out for, let's say, mechanism of the word, that they can use this framework to solve it. And they have sufficient smart capabilities.
Do you have any contact with any such person?
No, I've not done it. So I've not done it till now.
No, that's not my question. My question is do you know anyone who is a high-level decision maker like you're talking about, who trusts you and who would work with you in this mode? Do you have such contacts?
No, I don't have that. Even the company I'm working for, I can sell it to them, but I'm not selling it right now. I can reach out. That's not a problem. So my solution to me is pretty well developed. The only question is what you're challenging me on that is that have you reached out or you know personally? No, I don't. But I think there's a large space of people, large number of people, given the opportunity to present what I'm talking about. Especially the use case that I have developed and put on the website, it will give them an understanding about how the process.
But what you're selling is a complex solution itself.
Right.
So getting very busy people to give you an opportunity to, work with them. Basically, what they're going to have to commit is time. They're going to have to trust you, and they're going to have to commit time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not so easy to get high-level people to do that.
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm asking you, do you have any existing relationships where you can go in and get permission to do your process and solve a problem, and show people what you can do.
So I think, so you're right about that. I don't have it. But what I was trying to get from you, from based on your experience, is the value, is you see any value from your perspective, or you can obviously say that I don't see any value in that. That's perfectly fine with me. I'm not going to be impacted by
I
that.
never say that to anybody. That's just not how I operate.
No, but the point is, I think you are asking me that do I know somebody? So if I say I know somebody, will that solve the problem? Will that satisfy?
No, the question that you're asking me, you need to go ask somebody who is willing to give a problem to you to solve. I'm
Absolutely,
not
I will
giving
do that.
you a problem to solve. I am asking you to go find somebody who is willing to give you a problem to solve. So customer validation, the philosophy of customer validation, I don't do customer validation. You need to target customers to do your customer validation.
Yeah.
So our methodology of validation and customer validation is, especially in something like this, is not a quick process at all. You're asking what is the best approach to getting quick validation. There is no approach to quick validation, especially with something complicated like this. So you're going to need to, I think the key thing that you need to figure out is which, first handful of target customers are going to give you a chance to validate this on you and take a bet on you. And in this stage, given how complicated this thing is, it's kind of a consulting project that you're going to have to take on. And that requires trust. So that's why I'm asking you, is there anybody in your orbit whom who will be willing to give you that beginning, that start? Otherwise, you have to go through a process of, pitching to lots of people and, which is
that is common, right? No, you're right. But is that common to most new ideas that you have to find your customer, you have to talk to multiple people, get their feedback and do that.
But the word quick is that who is going to give?
No, okay, yeah, you're taking offense at my, but okay, I that's fine. I appreciate that.
Offense at anything. I'm just trying to help you understand what is the job ahead. The job ahead is to find customers to validate or invalidate your approach. And this question number 2 is also going to come out. The answer to the question number 2 is going to come out of that process. If you can get customers to engage in a proof of concept process, that's where you'll get features. I have no idea what features you need. I'm not supposed to have any idea what features you need. So at the moment, you're going to probably spend 18 months doing services project. This is the answer to your question number 3. You need to go find customers, and you need to go find, you're going to probably spend 6, 9, 18 months working with these customers and actually solving problems, getting paid and figuring out what a product looks like. But I have the feeling that this is going to be a services business for a little while.
That is true.
So
that is true. Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be a SaaS business anytime soon.
So basically, what I anticipate is that once you work with a client and give them satisfaction, then you can give them the product for an ongoing internal tool to use to solve their problem. Once they have worked on one project, then we can license the product to them, and they can use it internally as I visualize.
Maybe. Or another possibility is that you will develop a services company where you use your framework and your methodology and you solve problems as a services company. That's also another route to go. See, there is SaaS, the traditional SaaS model is DIY, do it yourself. There is another kind of SaaS model that has also emerged, which is do it for me, DIFM. So in a DIFM model, you and your team are using your framework and your methodology, and you're doing the work for them.
Mhm.
That's also an option for you. We don't know yet which direction this business is going to go. Until you start working with customers and start engaging with real customer situations, you're not going to find answers to those questions. So first order of business, let's start getting customers in.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Vidhi, yes, you are saying that you want to take 5 minutes to get feedback on your pitch. That's fine. I think I do have another presentation, but there will be time to do your 5-minute feedback process. Emotu, are you on the line? Can you please unmute?
I'm online.
All right, tell us what you're working on.
Okay. My name is Emotu Onimo. I'm a front-end developer, business developer. Next slide, please. Yeah, so what I'm working on is called Davinci Codes Africa.
Okay.
So basically, what we do is we focus on creating tech mastery, solving African problems. That's just an image of a platform I was part of. Next slide, please. So basically, there are specific problems across Africa. And number one is we have 4 research laboratories and completely no invention existing. Number 2 is there are untapped opportunities over $30 billion industry from agricultural waste, electricity, tech sector, and so on. Andela companies, Andela is a big organization in Africa, and they are to train 100,000 startups out of 200 million population. Not startups, sorry. They're to train 100,000 students for to develop tech skills, and we have 200 million population. About over 50% are majorly youths, and that's a sign that the opportunities are really untapped. And also, Africa do not receive good funding to kickstart their businesses, and also we have very weak institutions, poor skills, and unemployment. So next slide, please. So solution, what are we addressing here, and how do we address this? We address this by Davinci. So Davinci aims to empower African youth with tech mastery and also research labs to solve problems across Africa, across agriculture, fintech, and other major African problems. Next slide, yeah. So customer acquisitions are our specific audience focus on young adults and also get through online. We get them through online programs, university, polytechnics, and we're getting quite incredible referrals. Next slide. So we've been able to partner with an organization I was called to speak on a tech program, and they were able to empower over 3,600 students, and also I came to speak. And at this time while I was speaking, we had not really started, but it was a great opportunity to be part of them. Learned quite a lot of things, majorly across Africa, problem and how to solve them. Next slide, please. Yeah, so, okay, this is quite short. How African startup like Davinci receive funding. Yeah, so sorry, this is a typo, but it's all part of the journey. Majorly, so what we are actually seeking is we're focused on the seed funding that will be able to kickstart our platform. We already have about let's say I think 40 students going on right now, and we are yet to set a target for 500 students by the end of the year. And we currently we've been able to generate a little
So what are you teaching
funding.
students? When you have 40 students, what are you teaching them?
Okay, so basically we train them on the front end developer and back-end developer, and also the main focus is to we have two major focuses. So the number one is a general, which is just people want to get employed, want to get skills. A lot of university students, when they come out as computer science, they do not have tech skills, and they
So what is
become
the when you say you train these people in front-end development and back-end development, what are we talking about? Do you produce content? How do you train them?
Oh, okay, yes. So when we started, we trained them online. We go to schools, and so our contents are basically currently what we are doing right now is that we're packaging our content for students to actually actively come online. So we're trying to create videos for students. So we are creating that on our platform. So we train them on basic HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Python. And secondly, we also have a focus of building three techpreneurs. So out of all the students, we are looking to also develop techpreneurs where they will also solve problems
So,
in three major places. Yes.
there is a lot of places online where there is very good content available to train people.
Yeah.
It is not clear to me that content is a business that you want to get into. And this,
Okay.
front-end development, back-end development is not different from, US customers, US students, or Indian students, or European students, and African students. Front-end development is front-end development, back-end development is back-end development. So it is not clear to me what is your value proposition to these students that you're
Okay.
bringing on.
Okay.
So I understand it's a good idea to get a lot of students learning. So can you do this on top of other people's content? For example, I'll tell you from our personal experience, we work with Udemy. We have decided to give some of our content. We released about 72 courses on Udemy that are entrepreneurship, technology entrepreneurship courses. So
Okay.
these courses people can buy on Udemy and do them themselves. So you can think of these as, the equivalent of books. So if you're in school, you have to buy textbooks, and then you basically learn through textbooks, and your teachers are teaching from textbooks. It's equivalent. Now, in today's education systems, online learning is big. The equivalent of textbooks often is online learning. So you could conceivably create training centers where you have teachers, but the teachers are training on top of certain online learning materials.
Okay. Sorry, come. I didn't get that.
You didn't get that. Do you know what Udemy is?
Yeah, I know what Udemy is.
So what I would say is that, let's say you are trying to teach front-end programming to a lot of young people.
Yeah.
Look at what offerings Udemy has for online learning. I mean,
Okay.
for back-end programming or front-end programming, then you don't have to develop that content. You can just, and it's, Udemy is very, very low priced learning material. So you can basically teach your students using Udemy, and the instructors can teach on top of Udemy.
Okay, I get what you mean. Basically, we actually have, sorry I didn't even bring that out. We have specific reasons why we kind of stand out from Udemy and Coursera. So it all started basically when that was one of the first platforms I wanted to use, especially Coursera. This is about 5 years ago. So I didn't have quite any knowledge on as a programmer. So what I just wanted to, have basic knowledge and develop an application because we had an investor who was extremely interested. So we had a very low budget MVP, which the investor wanted to invest in, but we were having issues with getting the very skilled programmers to develop the app properly. And so this
But I
got
don't
me
understand
into
what
programming.
app you want to develop. What is the point of developing an app for training? These apps are, Coursera, Udemy, edX, these are apps for training, and they've done all the content work. Why do you want to reinvent the wheel? What is the point?
Yeah, so because most times we found out that a lot of when one of the experiences I had, and also quite other students, is when they go on Udemy and Coursera, especially let's say Udemy, they tend to have a focus problem, and especially when it comes to programming, it requires extreme focus, and you need an expert to
Okay, I
guide you
got
on
it.
where.
No, I understand. So what you're saying is that if people what you're saying is Udemy has a focus problem. I don't think Udemy has a focus problem. The problem is students are not self-motivated to learn, right?
Okay. Yeah.
They cannot keep themselves focused. So you could create a classroom or lab where people are coming to study, where you have instructors, but they're learning from the Udemy platform and their content, and your instructors are kind of helping them along and keeping them focused. So they come to class for 1 hour every day, 2 hours every day, 6 hours every day, and they pay you to be in class, but the material that you are teaching on top of is still Udemy. And the advantage of that is that you have all the course material already developed, and you provide the focus and concentration in your classrooms.
Okay.
The problem with focus is not Udemy's problem. The problem with focus is human beings' inability to concentrate and be self-motivated. So that problem will exist in class as well, but if you think that having an instructor in class, this is actually a very legitimate point. I think it's a very legitimate point. If you can create classrooms where you can train students using all this content that is available very cheaply through platforms like Udemy, but you are, you're basically running these classrooms and keeping groups of students focused, and the instructors can answer questions and help people, etc., etc. You run them as traditional classrooms, but they're built on top of other people's content. That, I think, is how education is evolving right now. Are you familiar with Khan Academy?
Am I from where?
Are you familiar with Khan Academy?
No.
So look Khan Academy up. Khan Academy does similar things, but for K through 12 in all the disciplines that children learn, right? To, elementary school, middle school, high school, everything, math, physics, all the STEM disciplines. And I think at this point they have all disciplines. And their philosophy is the same. Their philosophy is that their content is going to be used by classrooms, and teachers are going to teach off their content. And that's what they're doing. They have designed content such that teachers can students are learning with their content in the classroom, and the teachers are helping those students, keeping them focused, etc.
Okay. Sorry,
So
what's the spelling of the platform?
I will put it in public chat.
Okay, thank you. there any other things you want to help address?
Sorry?
I said, are there any other thing you want to help address?
Well, I
Aside
can
from
point you to something else that we are doing with Udemy, and this is something that you can also look into, is we teach technology entrepreneurship. And we have, Maureen, could you put our instructor page link in the public chat as well? So you can, you can teach programming, you can teach various, technical disciplines, you can teach technology entrepreneurship, teaching underserved youth or unskilled youth and upskilling unskilled youth is going to be a very important problem for Africa. So if you want to bring people into the classroom, right on top of a platform like Udemy, and teach people with instructors in class, but using the content of these platforms, that may be a reasonable value proposition. And you don't even need funding to do this. You can just, get people to start coming to your class, and you charge them a certain amount of money. You have to figure out how much are they willing to pay, and they have to pay for their subscription to the Udemy courses. And then you can basically teach students various disciplines, technical disciplines, technology entrepreneurship disciplines. They can, you can select from Udemy what you want to teach, and you can build courses around that. And the instructors will also have an easier time. We'll have an easier time recruiting instructors and getting instructors to teach, because then they will have guidance on how to teach. They don't have to reinvent the wheel either.
okay.
There is a course, if you look at my instructor page that Maureen just shared with you in public chat, you will see there is a course that I have put together called How to Teach Technology Entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And that's assuming this is being done in class.
Okay.
So you could follow that course, and you could implement that in, that's very focused. That's an extremely focused thing that you can do in different, different cities in Africa, and you can have multiple centers, whatever, but you can, using that course, you can teach technology entrepreneurship all over Africa.
Okay.
Okay, so those are my feedback, and see how you process this feedback, and I'm sure you're going to make progress.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. We're going to Vidhi next, and I believe Maureen is uploading the slides. Maureen, I don't seem to have presentation control anymore. So I'm waiting for you to upload whatever it is that you're uploading. It's uploading, okay? All right. Vidhi, please unmute your line and tell us what you're working on.
Hi, Serena. How are you? Thank you for having me and giving me the last minute opportunity.
Where are you coming from?
I live in Dallas. I moved there from New Jersey a couple of years ago. Yes.
Right.
And my co-founder is in San Francisco area.
Okay.
Yes. So I'll take a very quick few minutes, because honestly, we came here curious to just get to know you and get to know the process and really chat with you. So I'll share a little bit about our pitch, because we are actively raising as of last week or so. So we're like just garnering interest at the moment. So I'll tell you a little bit about She Raises Capital. We are a global a tech founder investor matching platform. So there's a piece of education, there's a piece of community, and there's a piece of marketplace style founder investor matching. And I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm not, were you trying to say something, Smyrna?
Well, I guess my question is on the edtech world. Are you saying you're an edtech company or you're an edtech founder investor matching platform? Is this specifically focused on?
Oh, okay. Thank you for this tagline has changed a few times. We give education ourselves. It's not for just we are sector agnostic when it comes to which founders come on our platform and which investors come on our platform as well. And but we give education ourselves. So that's how that's
It's focused on women entrepreneurs.
yes.
Okay. All right.
Right. So, Maureen, please feel free to go quickly because I don't want to take a whole lot of time. There's a full pitch. We're focusing on the idea, and this is not new to you. All that VC industry is at the moment on a shaky ground. 4 or 5 startups are risking failure in 23 alone, and 81% of early stage startups have less than 12 months of runway left. And we know the general environment that we are living in at the moment with the news around SVB, First Republic Bank, and usually the brunt and the disproportionate effect is on women, and especially female founders. And there's a lot of news and story around that. And personally, we have seen that with female founders ourselves. Success factors in the VC industry are constantly changing. So looking at it from the VC funds and investors point of view, we've worked with over 200 investors ourselves, did about 30 interviews during when we were at Founder Institute last year. We just graduated in February. And there's obviously the trouble of finding deals that accurately match thesis. There's a high rejection rate. 90% of the time is getting wasted in just deals that they don't even pursue. Visibility is a big issue for themselves. Right now, there isn't one good way. 3.15% of VCs are actually doing deals.
Let's get down. If you want to do this quickly, let's get down to your.
Okay, sure. So then thank you. So
can I speak just a second?
Yeah, sure.
I want to frame how I want to hear your pitch.
Okay.
What is your business? If you preface this by saying you are trying to raise money yourself.
Yes.
To do this. So what is your business? What is the business model? And how are you going to go from 0 to 100 million in 5 to 7 years? This is the question that you need to answer for investors to be interested in your business.
Right.
And then for every single company that you want to raise money for that's on your platform, you have to answer that question. So first answer it for yourself.
Sure. So let me not go through the slide structure for a minute. You can, Maureen, you can. So we've last couple of years we worked as we can pause here for a second, Maureen, where we're talking about the business model, and this is the outcomes, and we can move forward a little bit on the business model. The platform is doing 2 or 3 things for female founders, which is around a proprietary methodology on assessment on 9 business markers that investors are looking for. And they're able to come and take these assessments and able to improve these assessments through education on our platform. That's also done by us. We have the peer-to-peer support, which is a community, and then find and connect with the investors on the platform. Now, our business model is pretty straightforward SaaS model, Smyrna, which is yearly subscription model for female founders and also for investors. Maureen, if you go forward a little bit, we will show you. At the moment, on our freemium, there's a business model slide. At the moment, we have about 85 female founders since our beta launch, which is completely for free on the platform. So we act like think of us as post-accelerator kind of a model where there is an ongoing support and education that's given to female founders throughout the year, and also being able to prepare and educate and certify these deals that investors are looking for to be able to save them time. Maureen, if you go forward, I want to answer Smyrna's question around we make money 3 ways. There's yearly subscription, there's cohort-based partnerships. We're already launching 2 partnerships this year. And then there's commissions on service providers who are seeking these businesses that they're only serving specifically either entrepreneurs or want to serve more female founders. Going forward, I want to share a little bit about our roadmap. That's our GTM. We're still pre-seed, Smyrna, so I'm more than happy to show you the whole financial model on our 0 to 100 million separately. But at this moment, we are showing our, if you can go forward, Maureen, a little bit. We're starting with US, and our goal is to get to 200 plus founders and 50 investors this year, and also build our AI toolkit with the money we are raising. Then we are global at the moment, but in terms of design thinking and systems approach and being nuanced around pricing and cultures, we're going to Canada right away, and then the rest of the world going forward. So by 27, we'll be completely global. And we would have about $1 billion deal flow available on our platform in about 5 years.
And what brings you to us? What's your question here?
Yeah. So right now I'm pitching a little bit, but the reason we came to you, Smyrna, was obviously you are in a very, you're an expert in this field, and you're similarly running a global platform, and would love to get thoughts on driving scale and adoption in this area, especially in this market. And of course,
I'll tell you bluntly, this is not scale.
Yeah, sorry?
This is not going to scale.
Mm.
This is not a venture funded business.
Mm.
So entrepreneurs do not pay $2,500 to subscribe to something. Very rarely they do. Mm. And you'll see it's a very, very, in that sense, it's a very slow growth business. Mm. So it is not slow growth or linear growth is not a venture business model. 0 to 100 million is a hyper growth business model. This business is not a hyper growth business model. It will not work. Hmm. If I were investing in your company, I would not invest. And if you joined 1 million by 1 million, I would not introduce you to investors because this would not work. It's not, I don't consider it a fundable business. So I'm sorry to be disappointing, but that's the reality of this business. I know this business inside out, as you can imagine.
Yes. That's why I appreciate the blunt, it's not blunt to me at all. I've been through really hard conversations with, amazing advisors at Founders Institute. When we found you, it does not, I'll be very honest, it does not have to be in our mind, given that we are a social innovation enterprise. I need good advice, and I need blunt advice at the moment while we are in the beta phase to say, what is it? We've got an advice around being a quick acquisition target and not being a fundable. It doesn't have to be in venture-backed business.
There's nobody going to acquire this business either.
Yeah.
I do what I do because I believe in it.
And that's what we are here for.
So if that's the case, then you have to sign up for a very long haul, and you have to do it with a very different mindset. I have financed 1 million by 1 million, 100% myself and from revenues. So I don't want to mislead you. This is not going to be easy. So you better look at what your needs are, what your personal needs are. And this is my 4th venture. I've had a long career in tech and in startups and venture capital, etc. So I don't know what your personal situation is, what kind of money you need to bring in for your family needs and so on and so forth. So be very careful about getting into something like this.
So let me ask a slightly different question before we even think about, is it fundable? I think that's even a bigger important question, but more of an immediate question. what would you recommend as the best way to get revenue positive on this? Is it the pricing? Is it we've been at it for 2.5 years as an LLC first, and we had some amazing success when it came to really getting these women not only prepared, but also funded, and also amazing success from investors saying, this is an amazing deal flow. We care for this deal flow.
Where
Money was always an issue.
you have no deal flow. You have a very tiny deal flow. There is no amazing deal flow.
But when I say amazing deal flow, meaning the quality versus quantity, right?
Matter, but see, in one, entrepreneurs don't like to pay. Two, investors don't like to pay. I don't know any investor who pays a subscription fee for deal flow. It doesn't. This is not how the venture capital industry works. I don't know who's telling you what, but when it comes to actually writing checks, they will not write those checks.
So we've gone the path earlier this year, Smyrna, to try to go into straight commission model. You don't pay and you don't pay, and we act like a broker.
Very poorly looked upon in the venture capital industry.
Yes.
VC is writing a check to an entrepreneur and you stick your nose in the middle and ask for commissions. It's hated. That business model is hated in this industry.
So are we in the wrong business?
Yes, you are. This is not a business that you can handle. See, if your question is how are we making it work? This would not work if Sramana Mitra were not part of this equation. So this is not a business that is replicable, that is, that you can do as a general business just because it depends so extensively on me.
Yes.
So now comes the question, if you have to do this, now you have to compete with me. Are you equipped to compete with me? I don't think you are.
No.
So that's
we're not looking to. We're not looking to, because our business model is to not provide, we're not here to become experts at, like, for example, the expert, for example, that you are at. I would rather not be reinventing the wheel on that. Like, I think that's similar advice you were just giving. Like, when we were looking at, for example, 1 million by 1 million, the first thing that came to our mind was that, is there a way for us to collaborate and drive, bring your amazing education to the female founders that we are having access to? We don't have content, we're not building content.
There is another big question that you should think about is, how is female founders different? Because any entrepreneur has to do exactly the same thing. They have to learn exactly the same thing. They have to get customers. They have to figure out go-to-market strategy. They have to position their products. They have to sell. They have to do partnerships. They have to raise money. They have to bootstrap. I mean, there's no difference between what a female founder needs to do and what a male founder needs to do. It's exactly the same.
From the education point of view, Smyrna, yes, but I would beg to differ from the point of view of their personal leadership. Because working with 70 female founders over the last 2.5 years, and I actually come from corporate America, a couple decades in corporate America myself. And when I did this, when I started working on it, because I didn't really like the copy-paste leadership programs that I was sent to, and because they didn't speak my language, right? So when I started this, when we worked personally with them, and that's a big piece of our platform, which is the personal mentoring, is to really help them transform their story and transform their ability to really go pitch them the story in a way that it speaks to them and their values and their vision.
That's a different business, right? That's not fundraising. That's not, so what you just pitched me is not that. So what I'm doing is I'm peeling the onion of your value proposition. What is the value proposition? If your value proposition is to help these people raise funding, there is an enormous amount of coaching and education involved. First-time entrepreneurs have tremendous knowledge gaps, and there's nothing we can do about it. This knowledge gap exists, and that's where we have added tremendous value in trying to close that knowledge gap, and we have dropped pricing down. Right now we're doing a Udemy, which has given us another layer of democratization of knowledge, skill gap plugging. But what you're talking about is leadership, personal
It's
narrative.
a combination of both. When we do 9 markers, one of the markers is personal leadership. The other 8 are, to your point, more straightforward education, right? And then the other piece around that is founders coaching circles, which we just launched, for example, just around healthcare, which is women not having that. Like, for example, you're doing these roundtables, and that's why I just loved and I wanted to come in. We're having moderated founder coaching circles, which women are looking for, that they lose the camaraderie when they are in an accelerator and they come out. And the reason we're focusing on female founders is through the personal passion, right? I'm a woman, I've navigated it here. I'm the mother of a daughter, and I'd like to change the equity situation in the VC world. The way I've been given I was an exception to the rule that I was 2 levels below the president when I left corporate America. Nobody looked like me there. You know, there were no women, and definitely no women of color, or no, you know, and no South Asian women at all. And that's when I realized that there's definitely a gap in both equity of, there's an entrepreneurship gap, and there's obviously the capital raise gap, which is at 1.9% at the moment for women, which is why we built this tool to teach them where you are. We'll give you not only the edge, because not everybody knows the right GTM and everything, but that's status quo. Like, we have to give them that education. I can collaborate with you. I don't have to reinvent. You know, you can get it from the great Smyrna and, you know, all the education. But then comes the point.
How are you going to get it from? How are you get it from me? How are you going to get it from me? Because the problem that you're creating for yourself here is the revenue model problem. Because my stuff is not free. So how are you going to get it from me?
So when you say I get it from you, is the collaboration conversation I wanted to have with you, but we're getting them right now from a team of mentors who do live sessions. So we used to do completely personalized sessions with me and my co-founder, who's also an angel investor. I'm an angel investor, and I come from doing innovation for companies like Credit Suisse and ADP and Medco and Plated and a lot of startups as well. And so we do personal mentoring on that. And we have other 5 mentors on legal and capital raise and GTM. And they're also mentors in product and innovation and impact. And they're also mentors at founder institutes and Techstars of the world. So right now, we scaled it by making them live versus completely one-on-one sessions. When we were running it as an LLC, as a small business, we were doing one-on-one, right?
So for what you are providing today, are your women who are part of the program, in the beta program, are they willing to pay $2,500 a year?
No.
See, that's my point. You give it for free,
No.
there will be lots of takers.
That's where I can use your wisdom and advice.
That's what I'm telling you. People do not pay. That's what I'm telling you. People do not pay.
So there is a piece of value creation, and there's a piece of how do we get them to pay, right? So
no, it's a simple question. Do you want this to be a business, or do you want this to be a nonprofit?
No, we don't want this to be a nonprofit, obviously.
And don't do this. If you don't want this to be a nonprofit, then don't do it. Do something else that can be a real business. Figure out a business idea that has legs, that can validate, and that can generate money. So.
I hear you.
Simple answer. This is not going to be this is definitely not going to be a fundable business. And I don't think you have the stature to turn this into something interesting as a business. So, and it's going to take funding. It's going to take, lots of years of your life. And you ask yourself a simple question over and over again is, how do you want to spend the next 5, 10, 12, 15 years? We've been doing this since 2010.
Yes, that's why I came to you. You are
years.
a veteran in this.
So this is not a business that any random person can do, and this is not a fundable business. which means you're going to have to bootstrap, which means you're going to have to put in a lot of your own money, and you're going to have to. I'm telling you, the only way we've been able to do this is because of me. If I were not involved, there's no way this would happen. So that's my honest answer. There is no way to do this otherwise. You can do it as a nonprofit. You can do it as a nonprofit, make very little money yourself, and get itty bitty money here and there to run this $5,000 program there, etc. That kind of stuff. But that's not going to satisfy you. That's probably not worth your time.
Yes.
And, I think this is not a business that you want to get into, thinking this is going to be a scalable, venture fundable business. I wouldn't do it. That would be misleading you tremendously. If I said that, yeah, go ahead and do this and you can raise money, that would be misleading you terribly. And I don't do that. This is, look at this slide here. Bring 10 serious entrepreneurs into 1M if you like what we do. What I do is give you unsugar-coated feedback. I'm not trying to give you a pat on the back. I'm not trying to mislead you.
Yes.
I'm just telling you what I see and what, based on my experience, works and what doesn't work. So if you don't like my unsugar-coated feedback, well, don't work with us. But if you do, then I will give you unsugar-coated feedback. And my honest feedback to you is this business. And from a TAM point of view, you're even narrowing down further. At least 1 million by 1 million is a universal entrepreneurship development platform. You're doing just for women. That's another further TAM, lowering. So I think it's not going to be a business. Emotu, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
And then I have a question.
a major reason why I actually started a coding academy was that I started a football platform.
What platform? Started a what platform?
A football application where rewards are given to. It's a social platform for football fans where they're giving rewards the more they engage. So I had an investor who was very interested, and the problem was the application. It wasn't well developed. So there is a very huge gap. That was when I realized that there was a huge gap when it comes to having programmers. The very skilled ones are really, really occupied, and like they are very few.
Emotu,
Yes.
if you want to train programmers in Africa in cutting edge development disciplines, that is a valuable service. I think you can figure out, you can use, on other platforms that have the content, you can create, classrooms and you can train people. I think there will be interest. There's a lot of people are trying to learn programming, and I think there will be interest. You don't need an app for that. This is not an app thing.
Oh, no. That's not what I mean. I'm sorry. That's not what I mean. What I meant, I'll be very straightforward now. So sorry because of the time. So that was what led me into training like the people to be equipped to be able to have programming skills. So the question I wanted to ask was, now, can we have a focus on developing techpreneurs that will build them up to be able to where they're fit enough to be able to receive venture funding? That's the question I wanted to ask.
What? Say that again. Can you have what?
Can we train programmers in such a way that they're able to create platforms in specific fields? So let's say for an health idea, or let's say a fintech or agricultural solution with a tech platform whereby we're able to prepare them for funding. We're able to build them up for funding where their applications are ready and they've done their validation in the market.
This is not how venture funding works, Emotu. I think you should
Okay.
train yourself a little bit on entrepreneurship education. If you're
Okay.
thinking about, programmers don't just get funded unless they have a business that they have idea that they have come up with, validated, etc. So there's a whole process to coming up with a venture idea that is fundable. So
Okay.
So, I mean, yes, you can train programmers to become fundable. Then you have to train them first in programming, and then you have to train them in entrepreneurship, which you can do that.
Oh, okay.
So one way to do that, what you're proposing, is not a bad idea. You could take, lots of young people who want to learn programming and want to learn technology entrepreneurship, and you can go to Udemy and train them on both.
Okay.
That's doable, but you have to then
Okay.
train. See, just programming alone doesn't get you funding. You have
Okay.
entrepreneurship education on top of that to be able to
Okay.
come up with an idea, pitch an idea, validate an idea, etc., etc. All of that training needs to be part of that.
Wow. Okay. Amazing.
So go look at, if you're trying to understand how entrepreneurship education works, go look at the link that Maureen just gave you, udemy.com, users from Anamitra. Go look at that, and that's a very good starting point for, if you want to train millions of entrepreneurs, this is a very good starting point. And
Wow,
it's taken us many, many years. We've been developing these case studies since 2006. It has taken us many, many years to build to that level such that now we can give some of that material to a large platform like Udemy, where we can drop the price point to really low, really democratize the price point for really broad distribution.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. So, Vidhi, look at my answer to Emotu versus my answer to you. There's a bit of a difference. What he's trying to do is train entrepreneurs in programming, train programmers first, train young people in programming, and then also give them technology entrepreneurship training on top. And what I'm telling him is that he should follow the Khan Academy model. Khan Academy's model is providing the content, and then teachers in schools are teaching on top of that content. So in this, in Emotu's worldview, he can replace Khan Academy with Udemy. And so he can take, maybe Python programming, machine learning, and he can select what technologies he wants to teach to these programmers and teach them programming. He can teach my content from Udemy on the entrepreneurship side, and then he can create these classrooms where there are real instructors and people pay to be in class. And the Udemy portion acts as the textbook or the Khan Academy piece of it. So that model actually has monetization, right? Because people are used to go to class to learn something. And in Africa, what he's saying is that Africa is going through this tremendous youth population boost, and there is a boom. There's a shortage of skilled people. There's a shortage of, employable or monetizable, skilled people. So I think his analysis is correct in that there are probably millions of people, young people out there who need to be trained in this mode. And they're not self-motivated to go to a Udemy and learn on their own. This is true about India too.
Yes.
Right? This is true about India. This is true about Indonesia. This is true about a lot of the world.
Yes.
So I think that model, especially if it's a classroom model, what he's saying is there needs to be classrooms where these people can come in and study with the help of instructors. That model has more legs. But the model that you're talking about is that people are going to pay to be part of a community because they can access investors and all that. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to work. Okay, so that's
Sure. Thanks for your feedback, Smyrna. I will definitely go back and process it. We have a lot of proof points. I'm not going to give up yet because we are mission driven. It's not just about the brand of this. And to your point, if it's a nonprofit and whatnot, the path can be different, but not giving up on the mission yet.
Non-profit, we have an organization that has approached us from India, actually, that is working on women's empowerment and that wants to collaborate with us. But it's, from the looks of it, it's a non-profit. So I don't have to worry about how they're going to make money. I imagine they're making money from grants and events and so forth. So, you know, a lot of non-profits survive fine.
One of our advisors is a nonprofit expert at an international level, and one of our top advisors was to become self-sustainable and not be reliable on outside money. So you can be, you know, you can be a conscious business, you can be a social innovation business, yes, but don't be a nonprofit because then you're at the mercy of other people's checks for your own sustainability.
And those are very important decisions that you have to make. I chose not to be a nonprofit because
yes, we are not going to be a nonprofit. We're not going to be a nonprofit, but we're definitely going to be mission driven because that's my personal mission. That's why I love corporate America. I can always go get a bushy job in the corner office there. But I left it because I see too many women being left behind on the funding curve.
But it's how much money do you want to make?
Yes.
You came to this session thinking you're going to build a venture funded company. I'm telling
yes.
you, not on this pitch. This business is not a venture funded business. And if some idiot investor funds you thinking this is going to be a venture funded business, the business is going to fail and he or she is going to lose their money and you're going to lose your time. So that's how this is going to play out. Because there are a lot of idiot investors out there.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to stop there because I have to go do other things.
Yes.
Very quickly, if you want to use 1M everything is available on the website. You'll find a terrific blog. You'll find an Entrepreneur Journeys book series. If you want to learn through books, that's a possibility. These roundtables happen every week. You can come as many times as you want. You can pitch for free only once, but you can come as many times as you want. The full acceleration program is 1M Premium, where we provide you with extensive methodology guidance, a full curriculum that is, over 3,000 hours long, and we have thousands of case studies. Maureen, can you mute Vidhi's line because she's streaming sound, noise, and yeah, thank you. And we help you like this kind of discussions, strategy discussions, consulting, coaching, mentoring, whatever you call it, happens regularly in the private roundtables that are part of the annual membership fee program. So in the free roundtables, you can pitch and talk with me, interact with me only once. But in the private roundtables, you can come every week as many times as you want and can talk to me anytime you want. The self-assessment is a free tool. You can start using it. This is a VC due diligence tool, basically. This is what VCs will ask you. Try to answer these questions. There's a free bootstrapping course on the website. It's less than 1 hour long. LinkedIn commissioned that course to us. So you can take a look at it. It's very crisp and very effective in understanding what every entrepreneur needs to understand is the importance of bootstrapping. Udemy courses, we have 72 courses now. You can go look at it. There are all kinds of stuff and very, very reasonably priced. This is a great way for you to learn. And if you're doing bootstrapping with a paycheck, for instance, there are a lot of people who are working on entrepreneurship while they have their jobs. We encourage bootstrapping with a paycheck but please do the learning as much as possible while you still have a paycheck. Jumping into a full-time entrepreneurial foray without getting the basic knowledge of entrepreneurship is a mistake, in my opinion, at this stage of the game. When I was doing it early on in the 90s, in the early 90s, mid 90s, all this didn't exist. The internet didn't exist. But today you have no excuse not to train yourself before you jump in with both feet. You can also access our curriculum with 1Mby1M Basic, $99 a month. It's an all-you-can-eat deal. You can learn whatever you want to learn as much as you want to learn. And the premium program is, everything is described on the website, basically. Go to the website, dig around what to expect from premium, basic. There are FAQs, video FAQs, all of that is available. The curriculum is described in great detail. It is a case study based curriculum. We have thousands of case studies of successful entrepreneurs. So it is not just me teaching you these modules or courses. You are learning from the who's who of the technology business. And that's incredibly effective, because when people tell you generalities, it doesn't really sink in. What works is when you hear it in the context of a business that is comparable to your business, and you hear how people are putting one foot before the other and learning from their journeys, and that's when it sticks. We've been teaching for a long, long time, and a lot of people have learned from these case studies and have built very significant businesses. Our investor introduction policy is we do not automatically, just because you join 1Mby1M premium, we don't automatically send you to investors. We will send you to investors if we think you are fundable. So that preserves our credibility with investors, and that preserves your, you don't get rejected basically unnecessarily. When we see that you're going to get rejected, we don't send you to VCs. We work with you to figure out what you need to do to fix your situation and to improve your situation. And then you have to recognize one simple fact. Not all businesses are fundable. Only businesses that have velocity are fundable. Venture funding happens only if you can go from $0 to $100 million in 5 to 7 years. And if that high velocity trajectory is not applicable to your business and the parameters of your business, funding is not going to happen. And that's what investors are supposed to gauge as they're trying to figure out whether to invest in you or not. That's what they're trying to gauge. Do you have what it takes to have hypergrowth? The whole venture capital industry is focused on hypergrowth, and less than 1% of companies that go to VCs actually get funding. And then on top of that, most of those fail. So VCs are not always right. VCs are also learning as they go along. There's a class of very experienced VCs, but very often investors that are starting out make a lot of mistakes. So they will invest in something, and then you get into this zone of what I call twilight zone, where you're neither here nor there. You cannot bootstrap because you already have investor money, and that investor is pounding on you to grow really fast. But you also cannot attract another round of venture fund financing because you don't have the metrics to do that. And in that twilight zone, you're basically stuck. If you're bootstrapping, you can bootstrap to whatever scale you want to work at, and that's fine. So we're big fans of bootstrapping. 1Mby1M is not going to happen with just venture funded companies. Most of the 1Mby1M community needs to be bootstrapping entrepreneurs. So we are very big fans and supporters of bootstrapping entrepreneurs. And this is something that happens very often. We have companies in our portfolio right now. I've talked to numerous bootstrapping entrepreneurs who have successfully bootstrapped to a certain level. VCs chase successful bootstrapped entrepreneurs. And that's one of the best things. You are, then you're not going to investors as beggars, you're going as kings because the VCs want to invest in you. So that's that. We have roundtables every week right now until I travel later in the year. So, and we have actually a lot of interesting collaborations starting up with very underserved geographies and communities where there are, ecosystem building efforts happening. So you will see in upcoming roundtables, we're in the process of scheduling some of them. We will be putting the spotlight on these underserved geographies, looking at entrepreneurs, their pitches, as well as strategizing on how to develop these areas of the world and turning them into, robust entrepreneurship ecosystems. So Emotu, if you decide that you are going to work on something in this line where you train technology, programmers and developers, and you also layer on top of that entrepreneurship education, you can reach back out to us and collaborate in this mode as well. This kind of collaboration we are going to be doing quite a lot. We've done it all along. I played a big role in the India entrepreneurship development story. And it was basically pushing a rock up the hill, in the mid to late 2000s. There was a very, very immature entrepreneurship ecosystem in all of India. Today, at least 6 geographies, 6 metros in India have really developed. And there are some other, like Kerala is developing nicely. But there are so many areas that are still very, very low development level. So Africa is way behind. Africa is where India was in the early 2000s, maybe. So there's a lot of work that needs to happen in Africa, and we are very interested in working on Africa as well. So Emotu, if you decide that this is a mission that you want to take on, please reach out to us and we will be happy to collaborate with you. Okay, I think that is the end of today's session. Irina Patterson is your contact afterwards, after this program, and you can definitely reach out to her if you have questions about the program itself. That's it, I think. For today, that's it. Come back next week and we will continue working with you. Bye-bye. Thank you.